Andy Johnson, we're looking at learning contracts. It is one way to differentiate the curriculum to meet the needs and interests of learners of different levels, interests, learning styles, abilities, etc. What is it? A written agreement between the teacher and the students that identifies what is learned, and how learning is demonstrated. It enables students to work independently. They can work independently in groups or by themselves, either or. But it is a pedagogical tool, not an assessment tool. The goal is learning, not measuring. Thus, the teacher defines the criterion up front. In this way, the student is invited to think more deeply about what they're doing and how it relates to the specific criterion. The teacher also defines guidelines and provides structure, and depending on students, the level of structure varies. It comes in a variety of forms. The two main types are teacher-defined objectives, where the teacher defines the objective, and the other one is where the students define the objective. And I'll show you an example of both. Here, the teacher has defined a specific objective. This was based on the curriculum. Initial settlement, okay, and this is what it is. But the student gets to decide how they will learn. You see the different ways. How they will work. And again, the teacher has defined this objective. How they will demonstrate their learning. Interesting. How they will be graded, and checkup dates and completion dates. And again, you see the level of structure, but there's still plenty of choice there. Open-endedness. And here is the grading criteria. Should be criterion, actually. And again, stay away from getting all worked up on grading. All right? If they meet the criterion, they should get full points. The goal here is not to measure, not to assess, not to compare, but to learn. Imagine that. A learning device, not a grading mechanism. Here's an example of a learning contract where the student defines the learning objective. This is totally open-ended, and of course it must be approved by the teacher, but their topic of interest, specific research questions, I like to have that, how they'll work, how they'll learn, again and again. You can stop this if you need to look deeper. How they'll demonstrate their learning, how they should be graded, and dates. I like to have checkup dates to make sure they don't get too far off track. 1, 2, or even 4 or 5, depending. All right? Grading criteria again. And again, the overview is to identify and agree on a learning objective. Either student-defined or teacher. Decide what and how students will learn. Decide how students will demonstrate their learning. Identify the dates, the checkup dates, and the demonstration dates. And the level of structure varies. Yes, you can use this with primary students. Very simple, very basic. And you can take this all the way up to graduate school if you need to. And again, here are just some ways. Start thinking outside the box for students to demonstrate their learning. And again, the teacher defines the grading criterion up front, but this is a great place for older students, middle school and older, to get learner input and agreement. Other examples. Learning contract number 2. And you can do a Google search and get a whole bunch of these, but here are just some. And again, it varies. Math contract. And again, it's for students of all levels and abilities. Adopt and adapt.